Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for those that connected with us. We are giving 2 more extra minutes and we will start sharp at 11 Central European Time. So still some time to grab a drink, to stay with us for the upcoming 1 hour. And I will reconnect with all of you at 11 Central European Time. Welcome everyone again. Whoever is connecting with us, we will start literally in 1 minute at 11. So you still have 1 more minute left to maybe grab some drink and prepare your question. We will start very, very soon. All right, according to my clock, it is 11 o'clock Central European Time. So welcome everyone. It is my big pleasure to have you here on our first webinar from the Task Restore Med project. And today it will be a roadmap to 8 million euro in funding dedicated to restore the aquatic habitats in the Mediterranean Sea basin. We are starting right away as this webinar is recorded and all of you will have access to this afterwards, and we don't want to create any delays in this webinar. Keep in mind that this webinar is just a first out of a series of webinars that we have prepared for you. One of the important notes is that we have planned already town hall meeting that is scheduled for 11th of February next year, Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Central European Time. You can follow our website to keep track on the news, on the registration link, but we encourage you to join us. It will be an open forum for potential applicants to ask any question and get clarification. Also a networking opportunity to connect with relevant stakeholders from diverse regions, and you can start working on your joint proposal, and also there will be our team assisting you on structuring the proposal to be aligned to the open call conditions and requirements. So again, follow our social media and register to our newsletter. But for today, we are focusing specific on the agenda on the coding open call for you, and we have distinguished speaker with us. Myself, finally, I am Eva Stefanik. I will be your moderator of today's session. I am coming from F6S, serving as Innovation Funding Maestra. And in this project, I am an Open Call manager. With me today is also Dr. George Petihakis from the Hellenic Center for Marine Research, a project coordinator of Task Restore Med. We also have Dr. George Triantafylidis from the same organization, serving as the project manager of the Task Restore Med. We have Dimitris Kokinakis from Impact Hub Athens, where community comms manager and dissemination. And finally, we have our external guest that we are very happy to have, Fedra Francocci from National Research Council of Italy, Department of Earth System Science and Environmental Technologies, also coordinator of the Blue Mission Med, that will be giving you information about the excellent matchmaking platform. This is what we have prepared for you. Agenda is divided into 3 parts. So we have kickoff, the introduction. In a moment, you will hear all about the Task Restore Med mission. Further, we will move to the key parts of this webinar that is unfolding for you everything about this funding opportunity, starting from the most important information. What is it? What's the offer for you? When you need to apply and how you actually apply. The differences between the two types of open calls that we have for you, between the community-led action and the transition agenda development, the key expectations from those open calls, and a little bit of the administrative knowledge. So who is eligible and what are the funding rules? And the third part, as mentioned already, will be matchmaking support and the Q&A. So you are all welcome to post your question in the Q&A box. The team of TaskRace StoreMed from OpenCall will be answering those that we can answer already during the webinar. Those unanswered we will be taking one by one in the Q&A session at the end. We are planning to finish this webinar at 12 o'clock, and without further ado, I will welcome George to take from here to introduce you to the TaskRace StoreMed project. George,
thank you, Eva. Yeah, I was muted. Thanks a lot, Eva. Welcome, everyone. We've got a very good participation. And before we get into the real interesting things that you will hear about the calls from my colleagues, I want to very, very briefly introduce what TaskRace StoreMed. Next one, please. It's one of the flagship initiatives under the EU Mission Ocean. And we'll be running, it started at the 1st of September 2025 this year, and we will run for 4 years. What TaskRace StoreMed seeks is to catalyze a shift towards a sustainable blue economy in the Med for the whole basin. And to do that, we are looking to foster long-term environmental and economic resilience. Next one, please. So we are on a mission, and we want to drive a shift from blue growth to a sustainable blue economy. And to do this, we have identified ways of proceeding, and this is to align with the EU Green Deal and Mission Ocean objectives, of course, to support a systemic ecosystem restoration, and to empower community-led innovation and policy transformation. As said, we will be running for 4 years, it just started, and the total project budget is almost 12.5 million. So we are on a mission. We have the 3 Mission Ocean pillars, which are the main objectives, and we're focusing on the Mediterranean. The first pillar is all about protecting and restoring marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. So this is a very inclusive approach, not only marine, but also freshwater, to prevent, eliminate pollution of our ocean, all forms of pollution, and also make the sustainable blue economy carbon neutral and circular. So since we are on the second phase of the Mission Ocean, the key words here is upscaling and deployment. So we are not actually working on the low TRLs that the first phase had, but we are looking for projects that are a little bit higher on the TRL scale. And to monitor these projects and also to our targets are a series of KPIs, and we list here those, for example, in the pollution, like 50% reduction in litter, 30% reduction in microplastics, and so on. Next one, please. We're a collaborative alliance. We're term partners from 8 countries. You can see here the institutions with various expertise in order to be able to cover all the possible aspects of the proposal that we will be receiving. Next one, please. So our framework and our applied methodology. At the center, we have this blue donut model, which is basically an adaptation of the donut economics framework developed by Kate Raworth. So as you can see here, it has 2 main components. One is the environmental thresholds, represented here by the outer ring, and it's the 11th descriptors of the MSFD. And at the center, we've got the social foundations. So we're looking for a balance between ecosystem regeneration and community well-being. Next. So this approach enables us to integrate environmental, social, and economic dimension, all of those together, into marine restoration efforts. And this is actually very important if we are looking for long-term resilience and sustainability. It's this systemic and inclusive perspective that made us choose this framework. And actually, this one that guides all our activities under this initiative. So we've got the open calls that you are all here today to listen about. And we're looking for your high potential cohort of projects which will span for, depends on the project as you will see, from 12 to 24 months. What do we expect? We expect projects that will bring a transformative change, projects that they bring maturity and deployment. You heard what I said about TRLs, but not only TRLs, we are technology readiness, but also we want business and societal readiness levels. And we want inclusivity in terms of societal readiness and engagement. What do we offer? Financial support. You will hear more details later. We offer capacity buildings. We will build, we're actually under the process of building what we call a suite of tools that we will help you all. And also we are offering a dynamic network that it will help all proposals to connect, cluster, and continue actually after the task restore made. What do we expect to achieve by the end of the project is at least 5 community-led projects with high TRLs, some new MPAs, but also some existing MPAs to be upgraded, 10 plus solutions scaled with restore-made tools, our suite of tools, 20 transition agendas and regional roadmaps, some KPIs. This is, for example, for the plastics, that's indicative, to reach quite a lot of people, 1 million plus, and to engage quite a lot of them, and 10 solutions funded post-project. And I will leave it to these because, as I said, you will hear more details from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. So we are moving now to the part 2 regarding funding opportunities. And it will be myself to decoding for you what you really need to know, how you can start your application, and when you have time to apply. So let's start it. Just to highlight what George mentioned, indeed, the goal of the open call is to drive transformative change, and we are talking specifically about the Mediterranean basin. This open call is only for Mediterranean basin, and our structure of open call is divided into 2 strategic types of projects. So we call them type A and type B. Type A, community-led action, and type B, transition agenda development. So what are those and how they differ? So community-led action is actually call for scaling up and deploying. What is really important, my colleagues will be going into details, but the key focus in this type of the application is to really engage active community in your planning and afterwards in implementation. That you really must ensure that the local needs and the voices of the community that you're going to engage will be guiding you in the process. You're going to be working with your community 2 years, and that's exactly what you really see. The key characteristic of the call, we have 7 million euro funding in the pool for this type of call. You can apply for the funding between 200,000 up to 1.4 million euro per project. We are about to fund minimum 5 projects for the community-led action, and again, your work will be the length of your work will be up to 24 months. And then the transition agenda development, it is type B. Here, it is all about the local and the regional development roadmaps. Key information that you should remember, as my colleagues gonna go into details, is that you need to engage in this call local and regional authorities alongside citizens and relevant stakeholders in shaping and adapting policy for the long-term regional sustainability. And total funding pool for this type of open call is 1 million euro. As a project, you can apply a maximum 100,000 euro. We will fund a minimum 10 projects, and once you are selected, you will be working 12 months on your implementation. So how you actually can start application process. So either if you're gonna scan this QR code, you will be taken to our website, the main section on the open call, and you will see exactly what I see on my screen. And in order to start your application and learn more about each of the call, you need to identify which call you are interested and then simply click Discover More. Once you're gonna click, you will be taken to this application procedure per type of the call. And the application procedure is equal for the two types of the call. The only difference is in the documents that are tailored on the content of the selected type of the open call. Don't get scared by the number of the documents, because I will guide you what you really need to know at which stage. The Annex 1 guide for applicants is absolutely mandatory documents to read by all applicants. You need to also get familiarized to build your successful application by the Annex 1.1, and depends on the type of call, A or B, which is a catalog clearly explaining the objective, the expected outcomes from the proposal, how your work will be divided into 3 sprints. So you really need to study this in order to build your proposal, following the template in Annex 2. And then you will be requested in the end to submit all this in the F6S platform, and the Annex 2.1 provides you information about the administrative question that you will be asked at the F6S platform. The rest of the documents from Annex 3 to Annex 6, these are documents for your information, but you will be requested to submit them only once you are selected, and we will invite you to subcontracting. So in order to start your application, you need to simply click the apply button. You will be taken to the F6S website. In case you haven't been registered to our platform, you will be requested by the platform to choose how you really want to register in order to start your application. You will be answering a bunch of the administrative questions on the application, and one of the questions will be for you to upload a PDF version of your proposal that you built. And that will be required for you to finalize your application. And to wrap up, what you really need to do at this stage, in this introductory webinar, when to apply. So our open call is open 6 months. So the deadline is, the application is 27th of May next year, 5 o'clock Central European time. Very important. We were not working in the midnight. We wouldn't be able to support you with any questions. So please remember, the application will stop sharp at 5 o'clock Central European time. We will fund 5 community-led action, 10 transition agendas, development. Again, 7 million euro for the community-led action, 1 million euro for the transition agendas. And if you are selected, you will be working either 2 or 1 year, depends on the type of the project. And now we will go into details to the community-led action projects, and this will be presented by George. George, you can go take it from here.
Thank you, Eva. Good morning, everyone. My name is George Triadafilidis. I'm a hydrobiologist in the Hellenic Center of Marine Research, and I'm the project manager of the Task RestoreMed project. Today, I will introduce to you the Type A community-led actions, which is the main deployment and scale-up instrument of the Task RestoreMed open call, with a total budget of 7 million euros. The Type A actions are designed for projects adapting technologies and solutions that are already technically proven and are ready to be deployed at scale. The eligible solutions must already be at least at technology readiness level 5, which is a technology validated in a relevant environment. We don't want the technology validated in the lab, which is a TRL 4. No, we don't want that. And by the end of the project, they are expected to reach a TRL 6 or 7 and beyond. But community-led actions is not just about technology, it is about community leadership. So local people and organizations will guide the project. help make decisions and stay actively involved. So not just the technology provider. We want local adoption. The solution should be actually used in the local area by the community or local authorities, not just tested or studied. And we want real change on the ground. So the project will create, no, the previous one, please. The project will create visible, measurable improvements in the environment. For example, cleaner water, less pollution, or restored habitats. The mandatory documents that you should study are the guide for applicants, the catalog of topics, activities, and services, and the proposal template as a minimum. Next one, please. So each project must involve at least 2 partners, a solution provider such as a startup, an SME, or a research organization, and a solution adopter, which might be a municipality or a port authority or an NGO or a utility or a local company that will use the solution in real conditions. And at least 1 partner must be based in the Mediterranean basin, ensuring strong regional relevance. Next one, please. The main objective of these community-led actions is to deploy and scale the innovative solutions that deliver measurable environmental, social, and economic benefits for the Mediterranean basin. And here you can see a nice graph with the first phase funded projects per mission objective. You might have to go through these projects, and in any case, we will create a database with the available technologies that you might wish to consider in these second phase calls. This funding line directly supports the EU mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030 by moving innovative solutions from pilot phase into real-world deployment and replication across the Mediterranean. So our three mission pillars, you can see them here. Each project must focus on 1 primary mission pillar, but you could also have cross-pillar interventions and proposals. So the first pillar is to protect and restore the marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity, such as marine protected areas, habitat restoration, species recovery, and biodiversity monitoring. The second pillar is to prevent and eliminate pollution, including plastic and microplastic reduction, wastewater treatments, nutrient removal, and zero pollution ports. And the third pillar is to ensure a sustainable, carbon neutral, and circular blue economy, covering carbon neutral maritime transport, circular aquaculture, and regenerative blue economy models. Next one, please. So your projects must also select mandatory key performance indicators from the official WISE indicator lists, making impact fully measurable and verifiable. And these are included also in our document catalog of topics, activities, and services. Next one, please. In this slide, you can see the 24-month deployment pathway that is structured around 3 sprint models. In the first sprint, it's the fine-tuning. So this phase will finalize your project plan. It will secure formal commitments from the communities and the local authorities, might verify the TRL level, the business readiness and societal readiness, the baseline data and the key performance indicators that you will use. In the second sprint, the deployment, this will be the core implementation phase. The solution will be physically deployed in a Mediterranean site, and local adapters will actively use it. Community actions will take place, and first measurable impacts will be demonstrated. And in the third sprint, the scale up, it will focus on replication, business sustainability, and post-funding viability, where each project must produce a sustainability and replication strategy and will demonstrate readiness for investment or uptake in new locations. So why community-led actions matter? It's because they will turn innovation into real environmental impact. They will empower local communities as leaders of change. They will de-risk the investment for future large-scale rollout and will build on long-term regional capacity, not just short-term pilots. And you will not be left alone. The selected consortia will receive technical assistance in business and investment planning, environmental and social impact assessment, policy alignment, access to funding, and international clustering and visibility. So this combination of funding plus structured support is what transforms good ideas into scalable Mediterranean solutions. So as a key takeaway message, the Type A community-led actions represent the operational backbone of the Task Restore Med program, as we will provide 7 million euros dedicated to deployment and scale up. And these interventions will enable Mediterranean communities to implement proven solutions, deliver measurable mission ocean impact, and prepare the ground for long-term environmental and economic transformation. In short, the community-led actions moves us from innovation to real restoration. Thank you very much for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you so much, George. We hope it's very, very clear what we really expect. It's a beautiful call. But now we will be moving to the Type B call that will be presented by Dimitris. So Dimitris, you can take it also from here.
Thank you, Eva. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining Task Restore Med first webinar. I'm Dimitris Kokinakis. I'm the co-founder of Impact Hub Athens. With Impact Hub, we are leading communication, community engagement, and the social impact assessment in Task Restore Med. We now turn to Type B. Type B is about transition agenda development projects. This call is dedicated to policy, governance, and systemic change. We dedicate 1 million euros and we allocate them to support regions and communities across the Mediterranean with up to 100K per project. When Type A focuses on deploying solutions, Type B focuses on enabling these solutions by creating the regulatory, the policy, and the institutional conditions that can allow sustainable solutions to scale but also endure. We stay on this slide. So what is the transition agenda development projects? These projects is about turning ambition and a vision of a certain region into a structured and actionable policy roadmap. Transition agenda development projects support national, regional, but also local or communal authorities into fulfilling their goal into EU legislation and mission ocean objectives. So we are deploying strategic transition roadmaps, identifying regulatory gaps and barriers, addressing technology, stakeholder, and societal needs. In its essence, the transition agenda's development help regions move from more fragmented actions into coordinated systemic transformation. So the role of the transition agendas in systemic change. So what we do is to play a critical role into bridging different parts. We connect through the transition agendas innovation on the ground together with policy frameworks at territorial scale. So either than isolated pilots, transition agendas development, they define clear transition priorities, we coordinate stakeholders' roles, and we have concrete policy and governance pathways. In this way, we ensure that regional change is purposeful, is aligned, and investment ready, especially in areas where pollution reduction, circularity, but also sustainability in blue economy transition really matters. So next slide. Let's see a little bit who is eligible. We will go further into this in the presentation later. But just to give you an overview on this, Type B of the call is intentionally designed to be more accessible and focused. So applications that can be submitted by a single legal entity or by a consortium of up to 2 legal entities. Applicants must represent or work closely with the mission community, Eligible entities, they can be regions, they can be local authorities, NGOs, research organizations, associations, that they are connected with policy governance, but also stakeholder coordination. In this way, like, we have chosen this structure in order to ensure both agility and flexibility, but also maintain strong territorial legitimacy and adjustability. Next slide. So the transition agenda development is unfolding in a 12 months program that hopefully will be clear and efficient for all the participants. Is divided into 3 phases. So the first phase, the projects, they assess the regulatory baseline, they identify the challenges, but also they map the stakeholders at local and regional level. In the second phase, we create living labs inspired if there are already established or newly formed living labs in order to engage local stakeholders, multi-stakeholders in its region, and directly co-create and draft the policy roadmaps. Stage 3, finally, month 9 to month 11, projects, they finalize policy recommendations, they disseminate the results, and they ensure a clear adoption of the transition pathways. On the next slide. So a little bit on the requirements for each project. So there are 3 critical requirements to keep in mind. First of all, each project must focus on one single Mission Ocean pillar. We know, and we heard before George, we have 3 pillars in Mission Ocean. Every project needs to be choosing one and centralize its project and application around this. Second, you must commit to enable at least one specific mission KPI target. So how the transition agendas, they can contribute or clearly explain on how they can contribute to this KPI achievement or goals. And as a third point, you are encouraged to define additional KPIs that they are relevant to your region or territory, that they can be measured and successfully contribute to the policy and governance process itself. Next slide. So this is 7 examples, let's say, of expected achievements. The one of it is like to create legislative roadmaps, validated roadmaps with the local stakeholders, but create also strategies for scaling and deployment. Close the gap between implementation and policy level. So check what are outdated rules and gaps locally and create a baseline for reforms. Create new policy recommendations, evidence-based proposals, and regulatory adaptation. Make sure that this is happening with the consent, the participation, and the commitment, let's say, of local stakeholders. That's why we encourage you to create living labs and also create validation workshops. Align with mission KPIs and create a clear contribution pathway to its target. Create adoption pathways into different public roadmaps and advocacy plans. And finally, regional capacity strengthening. Make sure that you create new forms of more inclusive or improved governance models that they can be also ready for scaling its initiatives. Next slide. So the support, as also George mentioned before, you are going to have like a 1-year support program. You are not left alone again this time. So you are going to have support into business and investment, into policy alignment, environmental and social and health assessment, access to funding, but also international clustering and visibility along with other mission projects or community support actions. So wrapping up, the summary for the transition agenda developments. Type B projects are strategically one of the backbones for the systemic transformation, as we would say. These projects provide regions with coherent long-term transition frameworks, policy pathways that enable solution deployment, measurable contributions to the mission ocean objectives, and readiness for investment, replication, but also scale. If you are working in the interface of policy, governments, and community engagement, this call is your opportunity to contribute into shaping the future of the Mediterranean restoration. Welcome at Task Restore Med. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dimitris. Excellent explanation. We hope we really encouraged and attracted potential applicants. And let me take it further. So my intervention will be now about the eligibility condition and the funding rules for all those two open course opportunities. Important. I will give you an overview about the eligibility criteria. However, as applicant, again, I must highlight this, must absolutely read the guide for applicants, which is a document that clarifies all the conditions for those two funding opportunities. Speaking about eligibility itself, the section 3, who can apply, really covers what you really need to know. And in order to provide you with some information, what you should really focus on to assess if you are eligible, I identified the 4 key areas that you really need to look into. Who are eligible applicants, where are the eligible location of the applicants and of implementing your activities, what is the checklist of the eligibility, and who actually cannot apply to our core, as we also have some exclusions. So this will be shared as the comparison, so you can clearly see the difference always between the two types of open course. Regarding eligible applicants, George and Dimitris have already mentioned a lot, so it's more a summary. When we're looking on the community-led action type A, you must form a consortium. This is a requirement. You need to be minimum 2 legally established entities. We don't have maximum, so you are the one identifying how many partners you are needing to create a nice fusion with a nice expected impact from your project. And you must assure there will be 2 roles represented within your consortium. And again, reminder, those 2 roles you need to have technology, knowledge, or solution provider. Those roles can be held by startups, SME, research organization, some specialized consulting firms, depends on the topic you're gonna choose, educational establishment, etc. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a recommendation that you can take into account. And the role number 2, of course, someone really needs to adapt, apply, and test the solution that you're gonna be providing. And this will be a role of adopter of this technology, knowledge, or solution. And again, examples, regional and local authorities, NGOs, etc. This you can clearly see the list in our guide for applicants. When we speak about the transition agenda development, here you don't need to build a consortium if you don't want. You are eligible to apply as a one legal established entity, but if you wish, you can build a consortium of maximum 2 partners. And this can be regional or local authorities focused on policy, governance, or stakeholder coordination, NGOs focused on policy advocacy, research portfolio organizations, or associations developing multi-stakeholders dialogue frameworks. Again, these are recommendations. The list is not exhaustive. What is important that, as my colleagues mentioned, and again, we want to highlight, we want to involve the real beneficiaries of these 2 open calls. So ideally some partners from the mission communities, and those you can find examples in our guide for applicants. Regarding the eligible location for the applicants, it applies for both types of open calls. So you need to be, in order to be eligible applicants, you need to be legal entity with a valid VAT registered during the submission of the proposal in eligible location. And these are European Union member states and Horizon Europe associated countries. This is rule number 1. And rule number 2, as mentioned by my colleagues, so again, a highlight, at least 1 applicant in both types of the open calls needs to be a legally established entity with registered address in a country belonging to the Mediterranean Sea Basin. You have a list of what are those countries. You can also see them in the guide for applicants. And again, we do it to guarantee access to local and regional community. because all of the activities must be implemented in the countries of the Mediterranean Sea basin. Where you can find the countries of Horizon Europe associated, you may ask yourself. We have that link in the guide for applicants. It's an official European Commission document. Important is to pay attention to the version, as those versions are regularly updated. So if in upcoming 6 months that version will be updated, we will be also updating our guide for applicants. But here you can really find the list of what are those countries that currently are eligible to apply also to our open call. Regarding eligibility checklist, this is a screenshot also from our guide. So apart from clear admin requirements, we will be looking also into general condition. So submission, your proposal must be submitted, a whole application only on the F6S platform. You need to submit it within the deadline. English is the only one official language of your proposal. You need to follow an official template that we have prepared for you. You need to respect the page limitation. Each of the proposal has it written on the front page. The proposal need to be complete. That means all sections require your inputs. You need to be aligned with the type and objective of the open call. You need to show a clear pillar relevance of the mission ocean that George and Dimitris also highlighted. Your activity location where it will be implemented must be in the Mediterranean basin, and of course your entity must have a legal status. Those conditions were applying for all both types of call, and we have also some specific eligibility check depends on the type of the call. So we will be checking the consortium size per type of the call. So you know the community-led action, you need to build a consortium. For transition agenda, you can apply maximum as the 2 partners. Then we will be looking into budget limits that were set. So for the community-led, you cannot over-exceed 1.4 million euro, and for transition agenda, no more requests than 100K of euro. There is also limitation per partner, so more about this in a few slides. There is a maturity level applying only for community-led action, and George was very clear that we don't want anything in the lab. We want at least TRL 5, and you need to plan your proposal for the exact duration per type of the call. Who is not eligible? Very important. Pay attention, as there are many open calls running now from the blue ocean landscape, and we slightly differ in some conditions. So big corporates are not eligible. That means companies that don't qualify according to the SME assessment by the EU. Multiple submission, very, very important. In our task RestoreMed, you need to select as an individual applicant or as an organization, meaning only one type of call that you are interested. That means either community-led action or either transition agenda development, and submit and participate either as a leader or another partner only in one application. If you as an organization gonna participate in more application, automatically all applications are ineligible, so please pay attention to this. Conflict of interest, you have a list who are the consortium partners of Task RestoreMed. Those are us as a partners, of course, we cannot really apply, but this is additional, let's say, condition that you can reach in the guide for applicants to assess if you have any conflict of interest directly with our organization, and of course, any entities that are subject of the EU sanction are ineligible to apply. Regarding funding itself, again, I will give you an overview, but everything is written in the guide for applicants, specifically in section 3.2. So a reminder, this has been said several times today. So both types of the call differ specifically in the budget that they offer. The maximum budget, again, for the community-led action, you ask minimum 200,000 euro up to 1.4, and for the transition agenda up to 100,000 euro. Important information. In the community-led action, as a single partner, you may, maximum is 500,000 euro, or you may request more, but this is an exceptional situation that I'm gonna tell you in a second. What are the conditions for this? And regarding the transition agenda, in case you are applying as 2 partners, the division of this 100K is a cap flexible, for example, 60-40, it's up to the partners to agree. Regarding this above 500,000 euro, guide for applicants set up a clear condition that you can read the 6 points, bullet points, to assess if this is your case. If you have additional questions, please contact us by the email and we will be happy to support and give you a certain feedback. So this is to study. We will not go into details, so these are very exceptional cases. And finally, common rules for the funding. So for both types of the open call, the budget that you will request, assuming it is within the limits, you will be paid 100%. If you have an opportunity to have additional funding to even expand the impact of your project, this is possible. You can use the additional source of financing, but you need to be very clear in your proposal, and you are the one responsible to make sure there is no double funding applying in your case. And you can also use subcontracting, maximum 20% of the total cost. Here you have a list of the eligible costs in the guide for applicants. You need to read it carefully, and especially I advise you, after studying the annex regarding catalogs, you will understand we have several KPIs or milestones for you to reach, like for example physical presence. So you need to really carefully read all the documents to plan in your budget, for example travel cost. So pay attention to this. And it's the final slide. So as you know, the duration of the two types of projects, once you are selected, slightly differ. It's 24 months for the community-led action and 12 months for the transition agendas. What is important for you to know regarding the payment, in both of the open calls, you will be pre-financed once selected in the month 1 with the 40% of your total budget requested, and afterwards you will be applying the cascade funding, so you will be paid against successful delivery of everything that is required in your subcontracted proposal. And in sprint 2 regarding community-led action, it is 45%, and the final sprint 15%, and in the transition agenda after sprint 2 40% and 20% in the end of sprint 3. And that concludes my part. I'm sorry, we will not be taking the question oral, so any question should be asked in the Q&A, as I see some people raised hands. But now we are moving, we have slight delay in the agenda, but now we will be welcoming our external guest to speak. Fedra, I will stop sharing my screen, and then you can share your intervention regarding your matchmaking platform and how to engage potential relevant partners.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eva, and nice to see you all. Thanks all the Task Restore Med for organizing this very important kickoff of the open call, which we were all waiting to be active together across the Mediterranean. The Blue Mission Med, it's a coordination and support action funded by the European Union to support the implementation of the Mission Ocean and Waters across the Mediterranean. For this reason, in the last 3 years, we identified the capacity, knowledge, tools, and opportunities to create a Mediterranean ecosystem, which is now ready also to address the challenges that you are very nicely presenting today. As George already anticipated, we worked across 3 objectives, and as a CSA in the Mediterranean, we focus mainly on the prevention and elimination of pollution from all the hydrosphere, so both marine and freshwater environment. But we enlarge the scope also on making the blue economy carbon neutral, and also to protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystem. In these 3 years, we also identify specific roadmap that address 7 of the sectors that mainly affect marine and freshwater ecosystem related to the pollution, of course. The sector that comes from agriculture, aquaculture, include fishery, tourism, transport and ports, the plastic industry, and of course, wastewater treatment and solid waste management. So for each of these sectors, we identify and presented clear roadmap to be able to revert the trend and also to promote transformative solution across the Mediterranean. Thanks to this exercise that has been made collectively by a participation of more than 400 associations across the Mediterranean, we identify 87 priority solutions that could be applied to the different sectors in order to depollute the Mediterranean. This we mapped all across the, of course, solution provider, and these are mainly technological solutions, but we also identified governance, business model, and societal innovation to be applied, transferred, and scaled across the Mediterranean. You can find some example on the Blue Mission Med website. And we also tested, mainly in this last year, different approaches to support and scale solution, to matchmake, to identify needs, and to sustain this information that you find on the website. Now, very briefly, let me introduce you to the Blue Mission Med community, which is intended as a space for all the stakeholders, of course, also to projects to showcase their solution and their approaches. It's also intended as a community to identify opportunity and to connect. It's very simple and easy. We intended as a repository that is updated by each of the stakeholders and of course managed by the partners, but also by the national hubs, which are key nodes that we implemented in these 3 years at the level of the different countries. So if you go through the registration, and I run a bit on this because I would like you to guide to the different kind of stakeholders category that are represented. Of course, you find the industry sector, NGO, and of course, research bodies and policymakers, different countries. You can highlight all different aspects to valorize your profile and to make you visible. Of course, you can provide additional information. As you see here, it's very clear the target, if it's a technology provider or seeker, in which sector you are more active, and what you are looking or offering within the platform. And just to go through the most important thing in our vision is that you can find different actors here as partners or as association. We can create dedicated opportunity here as under the marketplace. So you can offer and therefore find what you're looking for. That could be an open call, which is the case of today, and be active and engage and network, create a networking opportunity within and under the space, but also to identify specific solution provider and technology developer. What else? Just of course, this is an open platform. You can always update your data and information and your marketplace, but we can support you also offering specific and dedicated networking opportunity. So thanks again, Task Restore Med team, to offering this opportunity, and we are here to provide you support.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Fedra. Very impressive platform. So we really encourage potential participants to take advantage of it. It definitely served the purpose for this open call. And let me share now that we've literally entered the Q&A session now. I have looked into the questions. There were plenty of questions already answered, 30. And for everyone's information, we are building the frequently asked questions that will be visible on our website. So the questions that were answered from our webinar, if they were not very specific, we will be putting them on the website. So we'll not be covering them right now, but we will go one by those questions that are still pending answer. And I will initiate the reading. So the speakers, please pay attention what they read. Also open for yourself the Q&A, because I will be asking potentially for intervention. So let's start with the first a pending question for a project to establish a new marine protected areas. Question 1, is it necessary to reach a formal legal protection of the MPA in the course of the project? And question number 2, do we need to include the relevant institution, for example, National Directorate of Fisheries, as project partner, or is it letter of consent enough? I don't know, first, George, if you would like to take especially the question number 1.
George 1 or George 2?
Well, depends who feels more in the community-led action, but both of you are experts.
Okay. Depends if we are talking of a CLA or to
I think CLA
transitional
because the
agenda.
question is MPA, although I think MPA is more required for the CLA, yes?
It can be on the other one as well.
Okay,
but,
so
yeah. Well, the general idea, I'm going to the second part of the question, which is, to be as inclusive as possible. We're talking about community. So the more inclusive a proposal is, the better it is. Of course, you don't need to have a big partnership, but you have to show that inclusivity. Now, regarding the time frame that we have, sorry, the CLAs are 2 years. So for sure, to have a legal system in place, then the time frame is not adequate. So you have to show that you have taken the steps and that you know your landscape and what needs to be done. But I don't think that, especially, I'm thinking for Greece, for example, 2 years won't be enough. No.
Okay, so the person that asked the question, thank you so much, George. Please let us know if we answer your question, if you have additional. I just click it was answer live. Then we are moving to the next question that I see is unanswered. Now we are focusing on the type B project. So concerning type B, if we focus on the local dimension, small island, municipality, local community, to strongly engage the local stakeholders through participatory processes, are we expected anyway to achieve in the end a regional impact? I think we are here talking about the local, regional independently, but George or Dimitris, please correct me or unfold a little bit more the answer.
I think that concerns mainly Dimitris, so
I can take it.
Yes.
Go ahead. So the transition agendas, as we say, the outcome of it is to have a plan, to have a transition agenda development. So it's not expected to be able to have actual outcomes or impact in a region, like it's very difficult in the course of 1 year. But it's important to have clearly defined KPIs that they contribute to the pillars of the EU mission and to engage also the stakeholders. So just to be clear, in the course of the 1 year, it's expected to have outputs or outcome that is connected to the KPIs of the EU mission. But regarding the regionality, or the locality of the solutions, this is very important for the transition agendas. It has to be connected with a certain region, a certain community, a local municipality or area.
Yeah, excellent. Dimitris, maybe it's also worth to mention, highlight again, the projects will not be left alone. And this is also our role as Task Restore Med to maximize the impact that you can achieve through our networking, clustering, etc., etc. So definitely engaging local stakeholders is a good start. Okay, again, if there's some additional queries regarding this question, if you haven't answered fully, please participant who asked it write us more clarification needed. And now we are moving to another question. So this is related to what George really mentioned, George, regarding community-led action presentation. Could you please share some examples of innovative solution or technologies in the context of the community-led action call? To better understand, are these referring to applications, platforms, or structured programs? I would appreciate if you could be more specific, as I'm unable to locate information on the first phase programs on the following page. And he puts here the page of the water.europe.eu
yes,
Marine.
yes.
And I think
I replied that. Because I guess our presentations will be publicly available, but in one of our slides, we included the mission objectives and the various projects that have been funded during the first phase of this mission. That they covered public mobilization and engagement, digital twin for the ocean, prevent and eliminate pollution for our ocean, seas and waters, protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. So these projects have suggested ideas, approaches and technologies that have started or are still working to reach them at a TRL level of 6 or 7 at least. Some of them might be higher also at TRL level 9. So I'm not so sure in which field you wish to apply, but I could give you, for example, some ideas that are developed through the INSPIRE or the Remedies projects that they are trying to develop solutions to stop plastic pollution, and they have proposed a number of these interventions. So if you wish to stop, let's say, macroplastic pollution in your area, you could certainly apply one of these solutions or any other solution that is in the market or is certainly above the TRL 5, and you could potentially use it in your area in order to stop this macroplastic pollution. This is an example.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Again, I'm highlighting we will not take the, due to GDPR, we didn't ask your consent, so we can only ask and answer your question from the Q&A chat box. So if there are hands raised among the participants attendees, please write your question in the Q&A chat. Now we are moving for now to the last question that I can see. What if the partner is a non-for-profit organization with a valid fiscal code, so nationally registered as formal organization, but not a VAT code, as it doesn't deliver commercial activities and does not issue invoices with VAT? Yes, you are eligible. We mentioned that you can form as a community partner, so you are eligible to apply for the call if you have the legally registered address to implement. I don't know, Violetta, I see you said you're gonna answer this question live. You want to add something? Okay, I think that was a mistake. So let me see, I think the new question pop up. Is it aligned with the objectives of this call to possibly redistribute part of the received funding through an accelerator kind of program to SMEs operating for environmental solution in the Mediterranean? The question is not fully clear to me, meaning we have a structure divided into 3 sprints, specific one, and it is mandatory for the applicants that gonna form the consortium to follow that structure. So we would need to understand what do you mean by a kind of accelerator. SME can apply either as a, if we are speaking about the community-led action. So I would say we would need a little bit more details regarding this question, but in theory, application must follow the structure of the program that is clearly described in the catalog document. So if you have still some question, please follow up now. Okay, you said, yeah, I clarified the question, so it's clear. I see a new question pop up. I am a proposer developer. I wrote, for example, the Remedies project among many others with very high success rates. Are proposal development costs eligible within this type of project, or do they need to be within the overhead rate? Is the overheated rate? This is we have a clear cost eligibility on the, I don't know if you specifically refer to the community-led action on the transition agenda. The partners applying and building the consortia need to identify the cost, but the eligible costs written in the guide for applicants are specifically dedicated to the action implementation. So please be careful and consult the guide for applicants on this. Do we have any other questions? I don't really see it that are in our chat. So I would say we can wait 1 more minute if there are additional questions. Many questions have been answered, so thank you so much for the Task Restore team to be so active. As in fact, we will be able to probably close almost on time. So far it's 12:03, but let's just give 1 more minute in case some of the questions pop up. And those people that are here and trying to support other partners to build up the consortia, you have the matchmaking platform that was demonstrated by Fedra. You have a discussion board on the F6S, so you can also post a question there. There are several ways that you can start seeking or offering your services for potential consortium creation or application.
Eva, Fedra has raised her hand.
Yes, go ahead. So
We
whoever
cannot
is
see
can
it.
go
Thank you,
ahead because I
thank
cannot
you.
see it. So
It's quick and fast. Now,
Yes.
just because I'm not able to share the link to the platform in the chat box, so if you can do this for us,
I think
or
it was shared by Elisa. At least I saw it.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Elisa
this
shared it.
Is shared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions? I don't see anything more in the Q&A.
There was something about the overhead rate. It's not 25%. It's written in the guide of applicants.
Yes, so I referred to this is a specific question. It's good to check in the guide for applicants if the cost will be eligible. So we encourage the applicant to contact us with specific question also by our email that is displayed on the slide. Because it's a offer service to support other people in writing the proposal. This is a different service. The question, can you share or send this presentation? We will be sharing the record with the whole presentation, of course, included. So recording will be shared as soon as it is publicly posted on our website. So everyone will have access to this. I don't see any more question coming. So I suggest we're gonna stop here. Any other question, you are more than welcome to contact us directly by the email. Also post on the F6S discussion board, so you can choose the most preferable form for you. I would like to thank every speaker today for the intervention. I don't know, George, project coordinator, do you have any final remarks before we shut down this meeting?
I will urge people to look at the guide for applicants, set up their projects. We are open to answer questions, to discuss about it, there are 6 months ahead of us, almost 5.5, but time flies, so please don't leave it for the last moment. And I would like to thank Fedra for being with us today. Thank you very much, Fedra.
Yes. Excellent collaboration. So thank you, everyone. We will be closing now. And again, those that were registered, you will receive an email also with the link of the published recording, but it will be available for everyone on our website. So final request, don't forget to scan or go to our website, register, follow our social media, and join our newsletter. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, attendees. Thank you, speakers. Wishing you good luck, and I will really hope to see you next year and collaborate with you. So thank you.
Yeah, wishes for the holiday period as well.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.